What's up, everybody? Welcome to the video. Chris Manal here, breaking down Super Bowl 59, the Showdown slate for DraftKings and FanDuel. If you enjoy, make sure you like down below, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. Let's dive right into it. And as always, we'll start with the quarterback position, and it's a Showdown slate, so basically we're just going to have the entire pool here. And it's not a matter of if we are playing the quarterbacks. You're going to want to play both quarterbacks in the majority of your lineups, depending whether you're doing single entry, 3 max, 20, 150. These guys are going to be pretty much the most important pieces of this entire Showdown slate. So it's a matter of how much do I want to play them, how much I want to put them in the captain spot. So for me, if I am doing multi-entry or even just in a single entry, I'm going to set up a ton of rules for how I build for this slate, and I will show you at the end when we kind of go over the optimizer. But if I have Jalen Hurts, obviously he's got the rushing upside. We saw Patrick Mahomes have rushing upside in the last playoff game, and that's something they kind of turn up a little bit in the playoffs, it seems. But he is not like on the same stratosphere as far as kind of banking on rushing touchdowns on a weekly basis like Jalen Hurts. So if I'm playing him in the captain spot, I wouldn't necessarily play him naked. I would still probably want at least one pass catcher with Jalen Hurts in my captain lineups with him or MVP, whether it's DraftKings or FanDuel. If you want to play him in the flex spot, I think it's fine to have him naked. Or obviously if you have a AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert, you want to pair them together. But I think Jalen Hurts is fine naked in the flex spot if you want to, or just with at least one pass catching option. Now for Patrick Mahomes, it's a little bit different. I know he is mobile to a degree. You just can't bank on rushing touchdowns every single week. If it gets them, nice. But personally for me, if he's in the captain spot, MVP, I usually want 2 pass catchers with them, or 3 or whatever, just multiple of them. So whether it's Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, one of the 7 wide receivers they have, whatever makes you happy, that's the route I'm typically going. And if I have Patrick Mahomes in the flex spot, I'd want one of his pass catchers pair with him somewhere in my lineup. And this is just from a tournament perspective. Obviously, if you're playing cash games, you don't necessarily have to go through these rules, but we're just trying to hit ceiling outcomes here. So I try to correlate the lineups as best as possible. Now, I'm not really one to look at matchups too much. Like, obviously, I like to know, like, is this defense a pass funnel? Is it a run funnel? What do teams typically excel at? But like individual matchups and things like that, it doesn't really concern me too much, but I know people like to look at it. So just looking from a fantasy points perspective versus quarterbacks, the Chiefs have been a little bit softer than the Eagles, but we're talking a 1.3 point difference throughout the entire season. Chiefs are 11th, Eagles are 3rd. Eagles obviously have a great defense. If you're looking at the EPA numbers from this season, Philly coming in 3rd for past EPA, and then the Chiefs are a little bit lower in the list. It's not like they're horrible, but it could definitely be a bit better. And moving on to the running backs, it's kind of easy because you know what the situation is going to be for the Eagles. The Chiefs, though, it can be a bit messier. Just to get the Eagles out of the way, Saquon Barkley, very good at football, on a very good offense, on a very good scheme for the run game. Yeah, he's really good. He's just very expensive at $18,000. And if you're trying to play both quarterbacks in some of your lineups, you're just not going to be able to fit Saquon Barkley. So you're going to have to make decisions. Obviously, you don't have to play both quarterbacks in every single lineup. I'm just saying, if you're trying to fit in all 3, good luck. Now, for the Chiefs, it gets a bit messier here. We have Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco, and Samaje Perine. And all these guys do see the field. Now, I know coming to the season, Isaiah Pacheco, he's the main dog here. He's getting the majority of the snaps. Then he gets injured. We bring in Kareem Hunt. We all figure once Isaiah Pacheco comes back, he'll probably reclaim his throne to this backfield. But that has not been the case. He has only outsnapped Kareem Hunt 1 time since returning from injury. Kareem Hunt's getting goal line carries, and he is getting the work. He is the starting running back on this offense. It's still going to be where both guys will be involved. And you'll see Samaje Perine get involved as well. And he has a little bit of upside in the passing game, which might make him viable. Honestly, I haven't projected for a few points at $1,200 if you're just trying to fit in studs. Not the worst thing in the world. And if you do have Mahomes, you're assuming Samaje Perine's maybe getting a couple of catches. There's a very small chance he could luck himself into the end zone. That could get you different in tournaments. But at the running back position, it's Saquon Barkley or just a mess of the Kansas City running back situation. And really quick, I do want to show you the matchups, which is honestly as good as it gets for both teams because the Chiefs are allowing the fewest points per game to the running back position so far. Only 68 rushing yards, 15.6 points. So you have pretty much the best running back in the league. You go up against the best fantasy defense versus the run. And then for the Chiefs, it's already a weird situation. And then the Eagles are giving up the 2nd fewest points per game to the position. Eagles are also 3rd in EPA as a rush defense this year. Kansas City a little bit lower on the list. And if we switch this to just overall defense, Philly coming in at 2nd, only behind Minnesota. And Kansas City is still above league average. And moving on to wide receivers, we're going to start with the Eagles group first because we have AJ Brown coming up at the very top at $9,600, $1,600 more expensive than next wide receiver. And then we have Devontae Smith, Johnny Wilson, Jahan Dotson, and Paris Campbell. As far as snap counts are concerned, we typically see AJ Brown, Devontae Smith around 90%. Those are the 2 main dogs. 34.5% target share and a 30% target share for Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. AJ Brown's got some more big play upside, 50% market share of the team's yards with a slightly higher ADOT, but had a very disappointing first couple of weeks in the playoffs. They finally got him going last time out versus the Washington Commanders, but other than that, it was some very ugly times. And he was reading books on the sideline. It wasn't going well. He didn't look too happy after one of the playoff games, even though they won. And then you have Jahan Dotson, Johnny Wilson, and Paris Campbell. If you're looking for snap counts, we typically see Dotson playing around half the game. Johnny Wilson in the playoffs so far, he's been 10%, 13%, 24%. And Paris Campbell didn't play until last time out, where he got 11% of the snaps in week 21. You can't really count on any of those guys. So for me, you're just kind of sticking to AJ Brown and Devontae Smith if you're looking at Eagles pass catchers. And then we move on to the Chiefs. So they can get a little bit more confusing. Xavier Worthy has established himself as the wide receiver 1 in this offense. He's played around 80% of the snaps since week 14. They're finally using him correctly. They're getting him the ball more. He's obviously a great talent. So using a great talent with Patrick Mahomes, good things typically happen. He is your wide receiver 1 in this offense. After that, things get a bit messier. Hollywood Brown did return from injury very late in the season, came back week 16, played 27% of the snaps. But in the playoffs so far, he's played 67% and 65% of these snaps. So you can pretty much establish him as the wide receiver 2 in this offense, which is crazy because we would think that DeAndre Hopkins would be more involved, but he is basically just not playing football. In the playoffs, it's been 31% and 18% of the snaps. But even before that, he was kind of hovering around 45, 55% of the snaps. So he really hasn't been a full-time player in this offense. I know he got traded here, but man, he just hasn't really been too involved. We saw him get involved in a couple of the regular season games, but it's definitely fell off a cliff quite a bit. We've kind of seen Juju emerge as that wide receiver 3 in this offense, because if you're looking at his recent snap counts in the playoffs, 41%, and 58%. And if you're going to give me a $2,000 discount for Juju compared to DeAndre Hopkins, and from what we've seen so far, has a bit of a safer role. Maybe they ramped it up in the Super Bowl because it's DeAndre Hopkins. We know he's got talent. They could shoot him up a bit. That is certainly possible, but I do think Juju will be on the field. And at that price point, he kind of falls in that Samaje Perine range where, hey, if you just give me a few points, that might not be the worst thing on this slate. And tight end, it's pretty simple. It's Travis Kelce and it's Dallas Goedert. Noah Gray did have a period of time, a little stretch in the season where he was really involved in the offense and people were playing him a bit. That's definitely tailed off quite a bit. I know the previous game before the last one did have 3 targets, 3 catches, wasn't very much in the yardage department. His prop setting 11.5 yards for nearly $3,000. It's not great. He's going to pretty much have to score a touchdown for you to make it worth your while, in my opinion. Like Juju Smith-Schuster, I believe he's, $2,000 just talked about him. His prop's a little bit higher. I think it's sitting currently at 14.5 yards. It's either 17 or 14, somewhere around there. That's a little bit better, and it's cheaper. So, I mean, Travis Kelce, if you're playing Patrick Mahomes, it's probably in your best interest to pair them up as much as possible together. And for Dallas Goedert, obviously the pass catching options aren't as much of a priority for me for the Philadelphia Eagles, but he is cheaper than Devontae Smith and AJ Brown if you need a pairing option with Jalen Hurts. And I wouldn't even consider any of the other 3 tight ends on here because they're irrelevant. And I don't really have too much interest talking defenses and kickers. Personally, for me, I don't really see myself playing either of the defenses. As far as the kickers are concerned, yeah, I don't mind it. Harrison Butker, both of their props are sitting at 7.5 kicking points. I believe Butker is minus 128 for the over on that, but Jake Elliott is plus 108. I mean, just based off of that, I mean, good luck projecting kickers. But we have a slight edge to Harrison Butker there. He's $200 more. I mean, I guess I'd side there. But let's try building a lineup. And I am not building this for you guys to play in your lineup. I'm just building this on the fly really quick. Please make your own lineups. But let's just try to get something here. Talking about the rules that I wanted to have set earlier. So we're going to play Patrick Mahomes in the captain spot. He's the cheapest of the big 3, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, and Patrick Mahomes. Barkley is just so expensive on this slate. I mean, he's $3,000 more than Mahomes and nearly $3,000 more than Jalen Hurts. And projection-wise, I have them all sitting around 20, 21 points, all 3 of them. So I mean, I'll take the big discount I get with the quarterbacks here. If they all 3 go off, like, sure, you're going to miss out on one, but it's just pretty much impossible to make that work. I mean, you can do it. I have $4,200 left if I went that route, but I am playing some really ugly players. Like, we can attempt it. Like, if I was going to do this, I'd probably play Juju, and I got to get another cheap pass-catching option. With him, we could go Noah Gray, and this is possible. So if you want to, you can do it, and then you can put Devontae Smith. And honestly, that satisfies our rules, and it's not the worst lineup in the world. You have Patrick Mahomes paired with Juju and Noah Gray. It's very ugly. The pairing options are, but You know, if you're in a crazy tournament, this is something that could differentiate you, because you also have Jalen Hurts paired with Devontae Smith, and you have Saquon Barkley. Now, if you're going to go a little bit more balanced here, I would probably go the double quarterback route, and then maybe I can get some better pass catching options with Patrick Mahomes. So we'll play Travis Kelce, we can play Xavier Worthy. It's a little expensive, and we can honestly, I wouldn't even hate going triple stack here with Juju. Then we'd have $5,600 left, and we can play Jalen Hurts naked in the flex spot. I think that's perfectly fine. You could go quadruple stack with Hollywood Brown. Maybe we don't have to play Juju. We'd have $2,200 left, but I'm not really sure who else in this price range that I'd have too much interest in. I just hate kind of going 5-1 stack here, but it's certainly a route you could go. So it is possible to fit in the big three, but you're gonna have to make it look a little bit ugly. But sometimes that's fine for a large field tournament. On the flip side, if we wanted to go, say, a Jalen Hurts captain build, we could go with, I guess, AJ Brown. If we wanted to go double stack with him, you don't have to do that, but we can do it just for this one. Running back with Patrick Mahomes in the flex, $4,500 left. Plenty of ways to make that happen. I just kind of keep landing on Juju. I'm not saying he's the best play in the world, but he's just so cheap, and if he can get us 3 to 4 points, I'm not going to be overly complaining about it. That leaves you with $7,000. Not a great range, but we have Kareem Hunt available. Backup quarterbacks, Hollywood Brown, Isaiah Pacheco, Harrison Butker. A few options to go. Like, you can pretty much build what you want, but there's always going to be someone you have to leave off in each kind of build, which has always been the case for Showdowns. Okay, so let's head over to the optimizer here, and I'll give you guys an example of how I'd build. I'm not saying this is the only way to win, but this is how I would set it up personally for DraftKings. So we're going to throw in 25% randomness. That's typically what I do on a Showdown slate. You could definitely mess with other things like unique players, max from a certain team. I'm not going to do it just for this specific build. And then I'd like to make some player groups here. So like, for example, if I have a Jalen Hurts in my lineup, I'm going to want at least, or Jalen Hurts captain, I should be specific. I'm going to want at least his main pass catchers in there. So I'd want AJ Brown. I'd want Devontae Smith, flex options. And the same can be said for Patrick Mahomes, although we're going to slightly change the ruling here. So we're going to want at least 2 of his pass catchers in the flex spot. And also something that's pretty important to do, if you end up having a pass catcher in the captain spot, you typically are going to want the quarterback paired with him. So if we have an AJ Brown captain lineup, I would want, I mean, you could do exactly, but you definitely are going to want Jalen Hurts at least in the flex spot. And the same can be said for, say, Devontae Smith in the captain spot. You're still going to want Jalen Hurts, and that goes for every pass catcher. All right, so I think we have all the rules set. It's quite a bit, but it's just how I play Showdown slates. You can obviously make it more simple if you want to, but all right, so I think we got how we wanted. So I'm going to run a quick 20 max here, and we'll see which players are populating. So let's pull up the players tab here. So it looks like our highest owned captain ended up being Jalen Hurts there at 40%, Patrick Mahomes at 35%. I didn't mess with any exposures or anything, just kind of ran it really quick afterwards. Saquon Barkley came in at 10%. So he was definitely a bit lower. It's just because of that price discrepancy. He's almost $3,000 more expensive. And when they have similar projections, it's just obviously going to jam in the quarterbacks if you don't happen to change the exposures on that. So looking at some of the flex pieces, seeing a lot of AJ Brown, a lot of Xavier Worthy, Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. That shouldn't be any surprise. Kareem Hunt kind of popping in more than I thought, but a lot of Juju. So it looks like Juju might end up being that cheaper play that people get to just because of that low price tag. He's a pairing option with Patrick Mahomes. He's been getting used more in the offense in recent weeks. He's only $2,000. He's half the price of DeAndre Hopkins, which he has a higher prop line than DeAndre Hopkins. I believe Hopkins is only at 11, and Juju's, he's either 14 or 17. I don't know why, I can't remember off the top of my head. So yeah, that's not overly surprising there. It looks like it's giving a bit of an edge there to KC players over Philadelphia. Now that could be a price thing, that could be a pairing thing, because I wanted at least 2 pass catchers with Mahomes in those captain lineups, so it's going to jam in that. With that being said, that's all I got for you guys this week and this year. Hopefully you had a fantastic football season. I know I did. Looking forward to NASCAR starting very soon as next week for the Daytona 500. I have my projections, simulations, my contest simulations in the optimizer, and a bunch of other stuff on there. Worked all season to revamp everything, the efficiency, and just a lot of stuff. I think you'll enjoy it if you want to come in. Check it out. Absolutely love NASCAR. It's my favorite sport, and that's why it's on in the background of my wall. But I wish you all the best. Hopefully it's a good Super Bowl, and I'll see you all next time.